This is how it starts. You met a guy at a swap meet who had a few saw blade teeth for sale. Interesting. He got them from his third cousin, who knows a guy who worked for a guy that had an old sawmill out in the woods. You managed to find it somehow. Good news is we don't have any copperheads around here, and all you have to do is fight some brown recluse spiders and wrestle the parts away from some ball-faced hornets and blackberry vines. Your wife is very happy for you and buys tickets for her and her girlfriend so they can celebrate your good fortune in Hawaii. You are happy for her as you have some leads on 2 more old sawmills. That might give you enough parts to make one good one. Good thing you were able to find the other 2. I'm in Shelton, Washington this morning with Randy King, Mike Linnell, and the president of Branch 245, Dale Fye. Dale was the driving force behind restoring this sawmill and putting it together for an exhibition piece on the Old Iron Showgrounds. Hope you enjoy this video. Yeah, I got some family in Baton Rouge and in New Orleans. Yeah, they did okay. Dale, tell us a little bit about this structure that's keeping the northwest rains from rotting this sawmill out again.
This is our Branch 245 sawmill building, and we call it the Old Iron Lumber Company. The building was built with volunteer help from our tractor club and donated materials, and several guys that I can think of that were instrumental in this is Ed Murphy. He was the kind of the general contractor on it, kind of run the show. George Rhodes helped a lot, Mike Linnell and myself, and there were several other guys that joined in to make the thing come to pass. So we wanted to build a building that was kind of looked correct for the period, and we kind of stuck with that and went with this type of design. So a lot of milled lumber that was milled with Ed Murphy, milled it in his bandsaw mill, and we wanted to keep it kind of rustic looking. So the shingles on the front here, we milled those on site with Ken Christensen's shake mill that was built in the 1890s, and he powered it with a flat belt with his Rumley tractor, and we milled those, and Ed Murphy nailed them on for us.
So how many sawmills did you have to find to get one good one?
Well, I started looking. I found several mills, derelict mills in the county here, but I ended up with the parts of 3, and with those 3, I was able to have enough good parts to put one together. Okay, so our mill is powered with this 1922 1630 Rumley oil pull tractor, and it's 30 horsepower on the belt, 16 of the drawbar. We're a little underpowered for the size of sawmill we have, but since we're doing it just for fun, it works okay. So it's we run it on gas. These were a kerosene tractor. We run it with gasoline, and they're called oil pull because they're cooled with oil instead of antifreeze. So.
All right, thanks. We're going to do a separate video on the Rumley later because the engineering in there is pretty amazing. That'll be the next video after this one.
Well, welcome to the Old Iron Lumber Company. This here we're running an American sawmill, and this is American number 2. They built these in several sizes, from a 1 up through a 4, 4 being the largest. And these were made in New York, and they were shipped all over the country. One of their major distributors was Montgomery Ward's. You could order these through the catalog, and they would ship it out to you. Originally, this trolley here, the carriage was made out of wood, and also the framework below was made out of wood with steel tracks. And this one had been updated a few years back to all steel. The wood was always troublesome with insects and warping and rot and all that. So anyway, so we'll talk about the carriage here a little bit. The carriage is propelled back and forth with a winch mechanism that runs off a set work separate, or a headstock, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But so there's a cable mechanism, a winch in the center that rolls one way and the other, and it pulls this carriage back and forth, and you can vary the speed on how fast you want the log to go through the saw. So the log sets up here and goes back against 3 knees, and these keep the they keep the log in position. And there's these dogs that come into the log and hold it from rolling. And then back behind here is what's called the set works. And this is quite an invention. It allows the operator, with just a pull of this lever, he can move the log ahead in 1/4-inch increments or less with one hand. And this, you know, a 1,000-pound log, or he can move it, turn it this way, and he can move the log backwards the other way in small increments. So that brings the log into the saw blade for whatever width of cut you want. And here's there's little dogs that move here for different widths. And so you can take it from 1/4-inch up to 1.5 inches. And if you want to make it bigger, you take 2 pulls on it, put it on 1 inch, pull it twice, and it gives you a 2-inch thick board coming off the mill. This mechanism here they call the head works, and this is a reversing mechanism for the carriage. The belt comes in, drives the saw, and then all this forward reverse mechanism drives off here with a series of belts and pulleys and a set of gears. And with this one single lever here, let me trade places behind. This changes the tension on one belt to the next, and runs your carriage forward, reverses the winch, runs the carriage forward or back. And then over here on the saw bed, you have this here's just a roller, so when your board falls off the saw, it has a place to land. This here is a saw guide, and there's 2 little pieces of hardwood in here, and those are adjustable, and they just keep the blade lined up. And this is a 54-inch carbide inserted saw blade, and you can roll these teeth out when the blades get dulled, or teeth get dull. You can roll them out, put new teeth in, or you can sharpen them as well. And then on the other end there, that dish thing, that's a splitter. So when the lumber comes through the blade, that pulls the cut piece away from the log, so it won't pinch the saw. This is a water injection for water valve, and sometimes, depending on the log, if it's got a lot of pitch in it or if it's got a little warp in it, it'll create some friction on the saw blade, and of course it'll get hot, and then the saw blade will warp. So by adding a little water to the saw blade, that keeps it cool so it can continue to make the cut. Okay, the saw blade isn't exactly flat. It's got a little curve to it, concave to it, and there's a few guys around the country that still do this. You take it to these professionals, and they hammer the blade, and they do this with a set of hammers and a large flat anvil, and they get just the right concave to it, and that matches the speed you run it. So when it gets up to speed, that concave, the centrifugal force forces that concave out of it and makes the blade stand straight up and down, and that helps to make a straight cut. Also, the blade is pretty much square with the carriage, except it has to have just a teeny bit of lead into the wood. So it's like this is a set at a 1/16 of an inch. This edge of the blade is a 1/16 closer to the log than that end, and that keeps the cut straight, and it keeps the wood from dragging on the back edge of the saw as it passes by, and reduces friction and heat in the blade. You can edit out all that cranking, right?
By the time we got this thing started, we could have plowed 2 acres, and the only thing that would have worked up a sweat would have been the mule. Turns out they run a little better if you put some gasoline in there. Okay, Dale, talk about this.
I don't know what to say about it. Well, here's what we started with is anywhere from an 8 to 16 foot log. That's far enough, Mike. And we kind of get them up here close, and we lift them onto the forklift, onto the carriage. And then we'll kind of show you how that's done here in a second.
There have been many changes in the logging community since the 1900s. Most have been to benefit wildlife and the environment. Yes, I am a tree hugger, but I also own 2 chainsaws and know how to use them. I like toilet paper, 2x4s, and the paper I'm going to print this script on. Many changes have occurred in the logging industry since 1900. The Tyee loggers still make all the money while the guys in the tin pants carrying a Swedish fiddle do all the work. Some things never change. Our modern forest practice laws add to the cost of products but protect the forests and wildlife better than we did in 1900. I think it's money well spent. We didn't do it wrong back then. We just had a lot to learn. We bought into the system and learned how to do it better. We were able to build on early technology and develop modern sawmills to minimize waste. We developed low-impact harvest equipment as well as new techniques to protect soils and water. Tree people understand trees better than anyone else. Logging is a hard way to make a living, but it's honest work and makes our lives more comfortable in very many ways. We are a part of the environment. Thanks for watching. We are recording.
Okay, this is our early day. Let's start over here.
Yeah, there you go. That's what we were looking for.
What's that?
Yeah,
Oh,
that's good. We'll use that. Go.
Cut. Take 3.
Oh.
That's our branch 245 sawmill building, and
Take 4. Take 78.
It's the fire button too. You're recording right now. Okay. Perfect.